Which EastEnders characters are most and least likely to return from beyond the grave? Ooh, I can't say the word in the first 30 seconds or first minute. Okay, lads.
He's done the YouTube version.
Yeah,
but yeah, characters who may have departed, but it's not entirely clear what their status is. Like Mick Carter, for example, who the last we saw of him, he was going into the sea, trying to find Linda, but he didn't resurface. But as far as EastEnders is concerned, he is gone. He is no longer here. He is legally confirmed to not be alive anymore. And some characters who you can kind of just argue may or may not have passed on. For example, like, let's be honest, one of the main things we're going to talk about is probably going to be Ronnie and Roxy. Like, if we just had to pit like a recent, like a good, like Martin Fowler's never going to come back. He's never going to come back. Reese Cole, he's never going to come back. Cindy probably wasn't even that high as far as everybody's estimation was going to be, like, to return. That was pretty unlikely to me. Was she on the bingo card for anyone?
No.
No, you got nothing? All right.
I didn't know if you wanted me to continue on from that. I was just like...
No.
I was just like... no. I don't know who else, like, who else is most likely? Like, Abby Brandon can't return. Let's be honest. Even though I would turn the clocks back, and I would bring her back. Like, I don't know how you do it. Lucy Beale, is it Lucy?
Yeah.
Another one most unlikely to return. Hayley Slater, not her career's dead, so.
Character's not dead, but may as well be.
Yeah. Like Tina is definitely not coming back. Either is Kush or either is.
But yeah, I suppose in terms of most likely, that's the easiest angle to depict. There are two main options as to who is the most likely, and one's obviously, maybe we can have a third one. We can have a little third one just in case. Let's start with a jokey one. Fatboy. Arthur Fatboy Chubb.
I'm leaving this.
We didn't see his body. He was kind of mercilessly killed off at the end of his run for stuff that he did, but ultimately people have done much worse and stayed on the show. So he was kind of cruelly killed off. But they have shown the signs, right? We've had the little Easter eggs every now and then. Whenever there's any like dot related thing, there's always like a card from like A for Arthur. Like, it's always been teased that there's a potential chance of him to return. People took his return in Cindy's like flashback episode to be like gospel. Like, oh, he's coming back! He's coming back! Everybody shout from the rooftops! He's coming back! But in terms of characters, that obviously, if you were to bring back Fatboy from the dead, and if you don't know who Fatboy is, Fatboy was on the show from like 2010 to 2015. Oh, I don't even remember. 2015,
roughly.
It was just roughly that time period. He was a fan favorite. He was the kind of like cheeky, chappy, doesn't take things seriously, bit of a player, that sort of like teen to young adult kind of character. He was mostly comic relief, but he showed glimpses of being a more serious character. And at the end, they were actually starting to kind of reshape who he was gonna be, because you had like Vincent being like, Arthur, is this who you want to be? You want to be called Fatboy the rest of your life? You want to be a joke? You want to be a joke, dude? Do you want people to take yourself seriously? And then obviously he ended up in the boot of a car getting crushed at the behest of Ronnie Mitchell. But with his appearance in the flashback, it kind of reminded people what they could have had. And if you were to bring back Fatboy, it's not like bringing back Cindy. Like, it's not like bringing back Ronnie and Roxy. It's not like bringing back Den. You could probably just get away with doing it for fun, honestly. Like, it's not like you do that and then you've used your one slot of bringing someone back from the dead. You could just kind of be like, yeah, just escaped, didn't I?
See, I'm gonna completely ignore Fatboy because I'm not gonna give anyone the chance. And instead of saying Fatboy, I'm gonna say someone more important than Fatboy, Vincent. We never seen him die.
Very true.
So yeah, Ash can stay with Fatboy. I'm staying with Vincent. If you're
I'd
wondering,
be I'd be very happy to see Vincent back. I mean, he probably wouldn't come back. He was always terrified of being typecast. In soap roles, he spent 8 years in soap, all in all. But he made a big spiel about how you don't stay more than 4 years, and if you stay for more than 4 years, cast and directors just don't look at you the same anymore. So he did spend 4 years on EastEnders, 4 years on Hollyoaks, but still another character who had oodles of potential that was never really reached because they didn't really know where to go with him, but still was criminally underutilized. And I'd argue he'd be a pretty good candidate. It'd pretty much be a clean slate at the end of the day. Like, yeah, sure, he'd probably get back with Kim, but be a pretty clean slate because what would the character still be doing at this point in time? He's proven to be a quality soap actor. I highly doubt he would come back because he had some issues with the team, but it'd be an interesting one. I'd like to see it.
See,
Yeah, let's carry on. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, if you're wondering what my hatred for Fatboy comes from, it comes from the Reddit. Because I swear, when we did the Reddit, every question, be like, "Oh, is Fatboy coming back?" He's not. He's not. It's like when your stepdad is like being told like, "Oh, is my original dad coming back?" He's not. He's not. I'm your new dad. I'm plowing your ma. Your original dad is not coming back. Leave me alone. It's like, oh, it's just like every time. But that's where my hatred comes from.
People talk about Fatboy like they're Ronnie and Roxy.
Yeah. Like I don't I don't mean
like,
to.
when's Fatboy coming back? We've seen him. They wouldn't show that if that wasn't a sign that he's going to come back. And it's like it was a flashback though. It was a flashback episode. Very unlikely. But yeah, like two very more like jovial type silly ones, but I'd equally happily see either. And either isn't really gonna occupy the big slot, like Den being brought back, Kathy being brought back, Cindy being brought back. You could probably get away with bringing back Fatboy or Vincent and be like, yeah, they just escaped, lol. It's not gonna be the big like, guess who's back? Storm Sharon's here. Like, obviously, it's just gonna be like, yeah, that bloody hell, they're back. What? I thought they was dead. I thought they was dead. No, lol. See ya. I'm back. Like it, but in terms of like the big characters who will I say inevitably, it's the one character who will almost definitely come back from the dead is Mick Carter without fail. He is the golden child of the 2013 to like 2022. When he left the show, he was a main staple. And honestly, Danny Dyer seemed to make EastEnders his home. He managed to be, yeah, sure, now he's doing all the press interviews, kind of being like, yeah, I'd never bloody go back me. But I would if they asked me very politely with money. But I'd never go back me. Awful time, but I left. But, what's it like now? And he's kind of, it gave him a lot in a pretty, like, standstill moment in his life, and he was made a main focus and did prove a lot of the opposition to his entry like wrong. He wasn't the most like technically talented actor, but he always delivered his emotional scenes very well. He played a pretty interesting character, all things considered. So, and obviously the way he left was very ambiguous, and they very clearly didn't want to show any hint of him being dead, just the cliffhanger that maybe there's less that we know. When, like, I don't know, what did you reckon? Mick definitely coming back? Any doubt at all?
See, you forgot something, Ash. You forgot something. It's not Mick Carter. It's the man with the bollocks. It's Mick Carter. You always gotta do his intro song. He has an intro song, Ash. Don't you forget it. See, if you are an old head watching Walford fan from 2023, we did a video where I shat on metaphorically on Danny Dyer. I did not like him at the time, but I've grown to appreciate Danny Dyer with the time he has taken away from the soap. When we released him out into the field, he was like lovely. He met other horses and he's lovely. But would I like to see him back? I'd love to see him back. He's definitely coming back. He would be no. This might be controversial to say this, and I don't care if it's controversial. But he could be the equivalent of Den Watts returning. Like Den Watts is returning in the 2000s. It could be the equivalent of Mick Carter returning in the 2020s, 2030s. But like I always say, when do you pull the trigger on it? Because you don't want to do right now. Because right now it'll be like, he died in 2022, he's coming back in 2025. It's like, that's a bit too soon.
It's just too early, yeah.
It's like, you have to figure out when the perfect time is. And also, which we will get to with Ronnie and Roxy, it's like, you have 3 here, and it's like, they're not getting any younger. It's just, you have to figure out the right time, but not the wrong time. Because like, if you like, now I know 2023 and 2024 has gone way past, but if he died when he died in 2022, well, died in quotations, and then it's like in January 2024, it's like, you won't believe he's coming back, and it's like, he's been dead for 2 years. What else do you mean? But yeah, you have to figure out in these kind of circumstances when the perfect time is to bring a character back. And that's the problem. Like, to me, again, like I said,
like, you can even bring them back, and you don't have it. Like, Kathy was brought back. What did she really do? Not much, honestly. Like, yeah, sure, she found Ian and Ben again, but like beyond that, when she settled back into Walford, she was never really a main staple. Like, I'd argue until this recent era where people remembered that she actually is really, really good and should be trusted with big storylines. So like, you can do it, but still, you do want it to be that really, really huge, like, he's back. So what, Mick? He's back in EastEnders. Bloody hell! You know, the Den Watts comparison isn't entirely like, I get it. Part of it does feel a bit wrong, but I do get the angle of, he was an iconic character in his like 10 years. He was a very prominent character in the show, and you know, people will probably look back to that time somewhat. I know a lot of people had that Mick Carter fatigue, where in the end they did like bash the character over their head a little bit too much. Go, oh yeah, you're not with Linda and you're with Janine. Like, yeah, all right, yeah, and she cheated on you with Max. I mean, like that being Linda, being like, okay, this isn't really what we signed up for. You know, this isn't really what we did. Does it necessarily cheapen everything? A little bit, but still, like you said, he was a very prominent character in that 2013 to 2022 period. I guess you could technically say 2023 because he did see out 2022 fully, but like, it would be a very important bit and an important milestone, but likewise, you have to do it at the right time and you have to have the right pieces there. Like, you don't just have Mick come back and then Mick comes back and it's just Linda. You know, when Mick comes back, you get Shirley in there, you get all the Carter family back, and you have them like living their best life. They've all moved on fully, and then boom, he's back and everything's changed because they thought you were dead. Like, oh. But there is a like statute of limitations as to how much you actually, like, how soon you do it versus how late you do it, and there's just a whole level of stuff. But it's one of those things where it's inevitable. I have zero doubt in my mind that Mick will not return. Like, he will be back at some point.
Yeah, the only reason I make it to the Dan Watts comparison is because he is an iconic character, and like, I know people are going to go, that's very weird comparing Dan Watts to Mick, but like, it's the same sense where you're going to get everybody talking about it. Danny Dyer coming back is the thing, like, because like he's prominent. I just very quickly want to say I watched like a little short clip of the person who played Stan, like Mick's dad in EastEnders. Obviously, if you watch Danny Dyer on any talk show, just like us, he likes using a bit of profanity. So like Stan was saying, he'd be doing these F bombs as like C bombs, and then it's like, okay, Danny, we're rolling. He'd just switch immediately. Like, fuck you, yeah, fucking. You can't say that word. And then it'd be like, okay, Danny, we have to do the script now. And he's like, oh, Linda, I love your buns. He's like, what the hell, Danny? You've really changed. Like, he'd switch. Like, it's just, yeah. But and then obviously the big one, because Mick is the big one. But obviously, if you're a long time soap watcher, I think the whirlwind that these people bring is more significant to poor Danny Dyer, Mick Carter, and that is obviously number one, Ronnie and Roxy, and
Mitchell.
Mitchell, and if you want to know why these people are significant, well, they were unironically killed off. From my knowledge, and this is only my knowledge from listening to Ash, my knowledge, Ronnie asked the producer, look, can you make me a bit more happy? Producer went, yep, you're dead. What? Yeah, well, see.
Yeah. It was Samantha Womack, the actress, was doing a like talk, and it was like, yeah, so what happened? And she just went, yeah, I obviously Ronnie had been having a pretty rough time and we would change an executive producer, so she went to the new boss and went like, oh, I've got some ideas for Ronnie, and he goes, yeah, me too. And she goes, yeah, like I want it to be a bit happier, and then suddenly it just went, yeah, you're gonna die now. So, sorry. And the reason why people clamor for it so much is Ronnie and Roxy were ridiculously popular. Like, they set the soap world alight. There's a reason why there's been so many awful like attempts to recreate the magic, because they had this such good chemistry together. They were part of the Mitchell family, so they had scenes where Phil, Peggy, like absolutely ascended. Ronnie with a famous relationship with Jax, Roxy with a famous big relationship with Sean. The constant tragedy at the start with Ronnie and how kind of messed up her life was, but it's enthralling because she's not a good person and she will go too far. And it's just like, oh yeah, delicious. And then Roxy kind of being hopeless in a sense, but Ronnie just can't help herself getting involved in Roxy's life. And then Roxy sleeps with Ronnie's fella and has a baby with them. And it's a kid that Ronnie was never really able to have. She did have one eventually, but like there was a real like buzz around Ronnie and Roxy, and it kind of pitted these two really well. They fit well. They're so well together. And then pretty much on like around their 10-year anniversary, they just went, yeah, we're killing both of you off now. It's like, what? What do you mean? Like, they are iconic characters and they were extremely popular, and they just kill them off for no real reason. Like, it baffles me. It really does. It was a symptom of the time, because the 2010s had a really good knack for taking characters who would have been really interesting to bring back and just killing them off unceremoniously.
Yeah.
And they really had a knack for it. They did it with a lot of like really intriguing characters like Michael Moon, Derek Branning, Ronnie, Roxy, Abby Branning, Stephen, Beale, Pat.
Lucy.
So many of these characters that they just killed off for very little reason other than like shock value and making it intense. So that's why it's so like sought after. And the main problem with this is obviously you missed out on so much extra good time. You've missed out on so much potential. Like, yeah, sure. At the end of the characters, they were a little bit tired. But they were there for 10 years and were very prominent for most of those 10 years. And the real answer was, yes, you don't need Ronnie to be miserable. You don't. You just let her have some happiness for once. Let her character recover. Give her a year off. And that's generally what they probably should have done. They should have just went, all right, guys, we want you to be on a bit of an extended break for a while. We want Ronnie and Roxy to leave for a little bit so we can kind of, like, rekindle that joy and the happiness within the characters. But unfortunately, they were never given that opportunity in what is an incredibly short-sighted decision that I bet every single executive producer afterwards is like, what the fuck? Why? Why are these characters not here? Because you miss so much. You miss seeing Ronnie and Roxy growing older together. We like what's Roxy like settled down in her 40s? Is she married again? Is she actually with like a person who treats her right and it's not a terrible idea this time? And is Ronnie, has she managed to be with Jack after all this time, and they're raising baby Matthew and actually living up to everything they wanted to? And we just don't get any of that. We don't get any of that at all. And why it feels inevitable that they'll come back is there's so much extra potential. Like, yeah, sure, they'll be slightly older, and you're not going to do the exact same stuff, but they were still box office characters. They were still huge. And it'll be an absolute travesty if we don't get them back on our screens at any point in the future. Because just imagine the cast. Imagine the cast later on in like 10, 15 years where you have Phil, Sharon, Kat, probably not Alfie. I bet Alfie's dying at some point soon. Ronnie, Roxy,
Cindy.
Like all these characters. Yeah, Cindy, Ian, all these characters being older and being like the old generation to the newer cat. Like, oh, it's incredible. There's so much potential. And that's even with them being killed off for what, like 7-8 years now. It's immense.
I want to preface this by saying I feel like they're going to do, but not Roxy, because I don't think Roxy is in Hollyoaks, but I feel
Ronnie's not doing anything. Roxy's in Hollyoaks.
Oh, sorry, Ronnie's not doing anything. I feel like the minute Roxy is done being in Hollyoaks, I feel like they're going to do what they did with Kathy, where it's like, oh, you're finished in Hollyoaks. Quick, come back. Please, I'm sorry. Here's 50 million.
Yeah, because if you don't know the references, that Kathy's actress, Gillian Telforth, she went and did Hollyoaks for what, like 2 years at that. In like the 2010s, she ushered in a new family, the Roscoes, who were kind of she was there for a year. She ushered in the Roscoes, who were kind of like the Mitchells, but a bit sexier, really. A lot more attractive than the Mitchells. But that's besides the point. A group of boys, and they're all like have each other's back, but they're always fighting. They're always sleeping with the other's partners. But point being, and was like mum to Darren Osborne, who's a very prominent character on the show. But she was there for a year. And then a couple of years on, they went, bloody hell, imagine if for the 30th anniversary type deal, we bring back Kathy Beale, who was there from the start. And that's kind of, and Rita Simmons has been fantastic in Hollyoaks. She's been really interesting. It's kind of what I'd imagine Roxy would be at this time. She'd probably settled down a little bit more. Still probably not had the best life. In Hollyoaks, she plays like a ex-jailbird kind of. I'm pretty sure that she was a former addict, but she ended up having like a group of boys, and one of them was a toxic abuser. The one's like a nice boy, the other's also a bully. So she hadn't had the best luck, and she was in and out of prison, but still she was. And this is kind of what we would imagine she'd be doing at this point in time. But still, like, there's just so much potential, and it'll be probably the biggest tragedies if it doesn't happen, is my angle.
I feel like it will happen. If not by the 45th, definitely by the 50th. Because there is absolutely no way, like, you miss out on having an older Ronnie and Roxy. Like, I know we wax lyrical about this nearly in every, like, oh, it's kind of just back from the dead. But it is truly saying something when they're supposed the most featured, like, who do you want back from the dead? Well, I know Arthur's the most featured, Fatboy. But
it's a unanimous decision.
Yeah, it's just, I really do hate those, the 2010s executive producers, because they were like, you could have, like, there's a problem I hate, it's when, like, you're doing a movie, right? And obviously, like, so the first movie's a success, and then a guy comes in, does the sequel, kills off one of the guys, And then like the original producer comes back for the third one, and it's like, the fuck, you killed off half my cast in the second one, you prick. What am I gonna do? And it's like, well, figure it out yourself. Suck my dick. And it's like, okay, thanks. Metaphorically. So like, it's just like I hate it because like Pat could have been great as an older character. Like I know like her, it would have been weird having her like be visioned by Peggy in 2016, but I couldn't care. I'd still do it. But like, I would have loved an older Pat. I don't.
Yeah, but I mean, you could also just have her be there with Peggy at the same time if she wasn't killed off. You know.
Yeah.
Like, she could have also supported her friend through it, changed the story entirely.
Yeah. But no, they just killed off all these characters and just did nothing.
They didn't find their replacements either.
Yeah.
Like they didn't kill them off with a future person in mind. they simply just went, oh yeah, we killed off Pat. Yeah, who's gonna take Pat's place? Dot? It's like, well, no, but Dot's already there. You didn't make Dot. Peggy. It's like, you didn't make Peggy either. Like, and you're not anointing these. You're not ushering in the new generation to replace these characters. Like, they tried, didn't do a good job of it, and that's why it feels inevitable to me. Like, I refuse. Maybe it's just still and as you said, it is still wild that everybody is just like, no, it has to happen. It has to happen. And people who maybe didn't see Ronnie and Roxy that much, maybe they don't understand it as much, but it's criminal. It is criminal. It's like how people thought perhaps Linda was going to die, but Linda's been a staple for the last years. If you kill off Linda now, you're missing out on a whole future with a character. Like, and that's a rough, like, similar angle that it's not nearly the same level because Linda was not nearly as beloved at all at any point in time. But still, it would just be you're cutting off your nose to spite your face.
See, the problem, right, if you, just to briefly end this, if you kill off Linda, the problem you have is you pretty much can't really do a Mick return because the key character that would support Mick and help him is dead. So it's kind of like, well, it's like if, again, to use my Dan Watts comparison, it's like if you brought Dan Watts back, but you didn't have Dennis Rickman, you didn't have Sharon, you didn't have Vicky Fowler, like you didn't have any of those, you just had Dan Watts, and it's like, wow, what are you doing in Walford? I'm just here to buy a loaf of bread. What are you doing here? Like, okay.
It's like when they announced that they were going to bring back Cindy, the only people on the show were Bobby, Kathy, and Ian. Well, Ian wasn't even back then, but we then later realized that like Peter and Ian were coming back with her. But then even then, still, that's not very many people. So obviously they brought in the Knights, who were going to be Cindy's other family when she was there. So yeah, it's and they have to get the star treatment. They have to do so much to make up for the loss, and you can't really make up for lost time, but you can definitely try, and they definitely should try.
And I feel like that's where we end the video. If you have any more suggestions, let us know down below in the comment section. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. And who do you think should be brought back from the dead? Who's most likely and who's least likely? Just leave it down below. We'll see you in the next one. Bye bye. Bye bye.